was a young troubadour, swinging promenade. I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone. Here we go, sides. Well, now the sides promenade and go halfway, walking square through. All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I am going to Australia. Tonight, I have Steve Turner from Australia. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Charlie, and thanks for the invite and welcome to Australia.
Absolutely. This is fantastic. Like I said, I know a couple people from Australia now. I know you. We met through the podcast and talking, and this is certainly something I've been looking forward to. So I'll call you Steve if that's all right.
Okay.
Steve, where are you in Australia?
I'm in Western Australia and a city called Perth. We've actually moved in the last 2 years. We've moved south of Perth.
Okay.
It's about 3.5 hours by car into a little country town, and we're just loving it, Charlie. It's just got a little bit of a property here, and we're just living in nature. It's just wonderful.
Very nice. All right.
And
So
we go up to the big city every 2 weeks just to see the family.
What is the big city?
Perth.
Okay, that is Perth. That is the big city. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Hold on. Turn that off. Yeah, so we go up every 2 weeks just to see the family. We've still got my wife's mother still living. She's 97. Still living on their own. And we've got 12 grandkids. So, we go up there and see all the grandkids and family, and then we head back home again.
Wow, very nice. So originally from Australia?
No, from England, actually.
Okay.
And that's where I started square dancing.
And when did you start square dancing? When about?
1967. It was funny, Charlie. We lived in a little small village. And my mother and sister went down to the local shopping and saw this demo of square dancing. Came home all excited and said, "This is what we got to do, family." And my dad and I looked at each other and I thought, "No way are we going." So mum and my sister went, and they took the classes and going through all the lessons. And then graduation time came, and they were pretty damn smart, because what they did, they invited all the family to come and see their members go through graduation and get their little certificate. So Dad and I went along as well. And before we knew it, we were on the dance floor and they were teaching us square dancing. And it was their next class they were going to run, and we were in it. And I must say, Charlie, that was the best night I've ever had, I think. When I was only 15 or so, and I couldn't wait for the following week. So right from the start, I was hitched.
Very nice.
Just wanted to get into it. I saw the caller there, a little guy from London. His name was Tommy Cadner, and he did some recordings on hi-hat records.
Okay.
What's some of the songs? Coconuts. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts, all English type songs.
Right.
Who's Your Lady Friend? All those kind of songs. And we had an Air Force base, an American Air Force base, up the hill of our little village, and that's where they held the square dancing.
Okay.
I hired this guy from London to run a weekly club up there, so that's how we got involved in square dancing.
So you were about 15 when you got started in it. And I've been, all these podcasts I've done, it's kind of been all over the board with, I waited way into my dancing to decide to start calling. Some people started calling the moment they started dancing. When was it for you that you decided you wanted to give it a shot?
Well, things sort of changed a bit. I saw the caller there and I thought, God, how does he do all this? Yeah, and I was intrigued. And I was intrigued about the choreography as well. I was fascinated how he moved us all around. We all seemed to be going in different directions. And suddenly we're all home again. I thought, how does he do that? So we were dancing for probably about a year, I guess. And then my parents decided they were going to emigrate to Australia. So that was in 1968.
Okay.
And as a 16-year-old, I was kind of devastated. I'd only just left school. I got a job, had a girlfriend, had a motorbike. Things were looking good. And off to Australia we went. And I thought it was pretty game of my parents to do that, start a brand new life, brand new country. But one of our main focuses was to find a square dance club straight away, because we're all hooked with square dancing. We found one only club, Charlie, that was still in existence in Western Australia. After the boom days, things died out and there was one club left. We found it was only about half an hour from where we live. So joined the club. They had 2 squares. We made 2.5 squares with our family. And it was there that I thought, I really want to get into this square dance. And so what happened was there was a little group that wanted to not break away from this one club, but just form another club. So make it 2 nights a week. So we went along with that. And we were dancing there for a couple of months, I guess. And then the caller just announced one time, he said, I'm not coming anymore. This will be my last night. So we thought, okay. So everybody looked at me and said, well, why don't you give it a go? So I'd already had about 5 records because I just was sort of dabbling in it. And I said, well, okay, I'll give it a go. So I ran that club, Charlie, with 5 records. And when I finished those 5 records, I repeated them just to fill up the 2 hours. And I'll never forget it. My very first song was Walking in the Sunshine. It was on a wagon wheel record.
Okay.
And the figure work, it featured a red hot. So whenever I used to call this and go to another club and call it, I had to walk through the red hot because I didn't know how to change the choreography. It was in that record and I had to call it. And it was turn your right hand levy by the right, turn your partner by the left, full turn around, your corner by the right, partner left, make an alamandar. So it's quite a nice little routine, but
sure. Yeah.
We had some fun out of it. And I'll never forget that time, every time, well, hold on, gang, I've got to walk this through. It's got a red hot in it. And I became the red hot caller.
Okay, that's a good handle right there. Okay.
Sure was, yeah. So I took over the club in 1969 and no hoedowns, of course. I didn't know how to do hoedowns. There was no such thing as caller schools in Western Australia or in Australia, really. So it was just a matter of just teaching yourself and finding as much information as you can and go through there. So I found I was buying more records from the US, mainly just because of the choreography content, just so I could get into different movements. And that's how I ran the club for 2 or 3 years before I even started to think about calling hoedowns. It was amazing.
Now, since you're basically teaching yourself for a while with records and what have you, do you have any mentors that came along with the choreography or anything?
Years ago, Sets in Order brought out these LPs with hoedowns on. So I bought, I don't know, probably a dozen of those over the time. And I was fascinated with all the different styles of hoedowns. And believe it or not, Charlie, what I did, there was one caller I particularly liked, Dave Taylor, his name was.
Okay.
And he did this hoedown on this record, and I thought it was just the ants pants. It was wonderful. And what I did, I wrote it out word for word. It was about 3 pages long.
Wow.
And I learnt that and I studied it and memorized it and called it word for word. And that was my very first hoedown. And I was thinking,
awesome.
Just back a few years ago, and I thought, oh God, could I ever remember that again? And the only bit I do remember was the intro, and it was, bow to your partner and away down low and round the corner with a do-sa-do. come back home and seesaw. My, what a pretty little tour. There was a lot of patter words as well. And
A lot of fillers. Okay.
I could never do that nowadays. I couldn't remember that much. But that was my first hoedown, and that got me started. Then I started to analyze what was happening in there and get my little dollies out and just go through that way. And eventually I just taught myself.
Now, what level?
Very slow process, I might add, though, Charlie.
Oh, sure.
It took me years and years. If I had the opportunity to have all the information that we've got nowadays for new callers, I could have probably halved my time in learning what I had to learn to run clubs and be a guest caller.
It's coming along when I did. It's good and bad. You having to do as much work as you did, and the ease in which we can find stuff now with the internet and caller schools and everything else. I think that makes you a little bit weaker in the long run when you have so many avenues. Whereas yourself, having to build yourself and find little ways of getting places without anybody telling you, hey, this is what you should look for. I think that makes it a little bit stronger. It's a stronger base, I think, just because I'm going from both directions. I've been to caller schools and everything else, and they're a huge help. But I think, Jack Platty's is one. Jack Platty's taught himself overseas when he was coming up. And those guys are so strong because, you did the work yourself, so that is impressive. What do you consider yourself now, a sight caller, or do you still work off memory, or when you approach a dance, what do you do?
I do, I've heard a few other podcasts too, and it seems to be the norm with experienced callers. You have your modules and you've got your sight calling, and most of us can sight call out of a paper bag, no matter where we are. But for years and years, Charlie, I've been concentrating on modules, get-ins, get-outs, flow modules, all those sorts of things. You've got to have that as a backup to your sight calling. And I think that's the way to go, particularly when you're calling for a group you don't know. It's different with your own club. You can just sort of go in and off you go. But when you're guest calling or doing a weekend, you've really got to have little modules that works well, can test the dancers out, find out what they can do and what they can't do. And where they start, where they finish. To go in and start off with sight calling instantly, I think it's a bit of a risk, particularly when you don't know the group. And I've done that for years and years, Charlie. And when I teach callers now, I actually start off with modules. I don't have sight calling anywhere near the training sessions probably for a good year.
Gotcha.
I get them to know the basics first, know how things work, and then we start the sight calling. So they've got all that information as a backup, and then we can start the sight calling.
Okay. So
when I first started, Charlie, I was so damn nervous. I was a timid little kid, really.
Sure.
And when I started calling, every time I called, I was shaking like a leaf, And because I had my cue sheet in my hand, they could actually see it shaking like mad. So what happened, and this was unintentional, I found I was getting so involved in the beat of the music, my whole body was shaking. And I thought, God, this is a good idea. Now they can't see the cue sheet shaking. So, and over the years, I was known as Shaking Steve. So, and it was only about after 7-8 years, I was Shaking Steve all over Australia and New Zealand. So, but as I got older, it sort of depleted, and it sort of smoothed out. And I'm glad, because I've lasted till I'm at least 70 now. So
that's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I still, depending on where I am, when I go, I try and go to all the national conventions now, and even when it's a small room, I'm just as nervous as I can be when I get up there. If I'm doing singing calls, and I crank out singing calls that I've done hundreds of times at this point when I go to like a national convention, and I'm still nervous. I can barely get my mic cord into the machine,
Well, Charlie, you'll make a good caller. because I still believe you've got to have nerves.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Too right, you have.
That's something I enjoy about it too, because when it's all said and done, I look forward to that. If I didn't feel anything going up there, it wouldn't be worth it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I bought every book available from the US. And that was the only way you could sort of learn. And, pushing checkers around, I still believe that's the best way to
absolutely
memorize modules. When I love terminations, don't get me wrong. It's a great tool to have nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But to push the checkers around takes more time to do that. It gives them more time to get into your brain and stay there. And you're creating your own choreography. And I believe that it's a better way of memorizing modules.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people too, and there's some thought behind you're actually feeling what the dancers are doing when you're moving them with your hands as opposed to clicking or typing on the laptop for terminations.
Exactly, yep.
And I do both. I do probably half and half. I do terminations every single day, and I do checkers probably every day, if not every other day, just because it's easy when I'm at work or at home. At home I do checkers, but at work, I'll have one of my laptops open and I'll have terminations going over there while I'm doing other stuff on the other one. So that's fantastic for other callers, the way you approach that.
I have a set of sorry, Charlie. I have a set of dollies everywhere. I've got a set in my car because if an idea comes, I pull the car over, get my little dollies out. If I've got another set beside my bed, and I'm laying there waiting to go to sleep, and a little idea will come, and I still believe it's one of those callers up in heaven that sends something down to me every time, because it comes from nowhere. And okay, out of bed I get, move the checkers around, and I've created something else.
Let me get this out of here. I've got this that I carry everywhere with me. This one is magnets, so I can be anywhere I want, and I can move the magnets. And I keep that in my book. I take that to dances with me. I can just set it on the side and go, wait a minute, I got to see if something works. So I'm with you on the checkers. Steve, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Now, right before we started tonight, you said that you dance differently in Australia. Tell me what that means.
Yeah, with back in, I think it was 1950 odd, we had Jerry Lewis. Do you know of Jerry Lewis? He's passed now. Mm-mm. But he was a Texan caller, and he had an accordion, and he played the accordion while he called. Okay. So he didn't he did have his own record label eventually. But he was invited to come to Australia by a magazine, a woman's magazine, would you believe? Okay. A Woman's Day, I think it was called. And he was invited to come to Australia and promote square dancing. They brought him over and set him up in a hall somewhere, and I think it was, might get me wrong, it might be Victoria, Melbourne, might even been Sydney. But anyway, they had queues and queues, Charlie, around the city blocks waiting to get into this hall. It was unbelievable. And they were promoting gingham type material as well. And it just took off. So that helped Australia get on its feet with square dancing. And he actually introduced, instead of the forearm that everybody has in throughout the world in square dancing for the arm turns and such, we use a pigeon wing. So it's up like that. So we join another hand and just turn slightly up. Okay. So all of our arm turns, our dars, our flutter wheels, scoop backs, all arm turns are done in the pigeon.
Okay. I guess.
Yep. And our promenade is done in a skater's promenade, not with hands in front. So we've got the hand in front and the right hand around the lady's back.
Okay. Okay.
And the ladies can use their skirt work with their right hand. Yeah.
Okay.
But apart from that, we're much the same. But yeah, just that slight difference.
Okay.
And it's kind of nice to hang on to. And I think we're the only country in the world that does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When especially tradition, because that keeps people coming. It really does.
It does.
You had mentioned teaching callers. So do you do caller schools and travel around? Tell me about that.
I do, yes. Yeah, and it was back in 75. I actually signed up to a caller's course, and I think it was Les Gotcha, and it was a note service from the US, and it was a questionnaire type course. So they would send out the paperwork via mail. So you can imagine how long it took to get to Australia. I'd fill out all the answers and then send it back to them, and then they would give me feedback on that. And I did that for probably 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So and as I was learning all those kind of things, I was actually teaching our local callers here what I had just learned. So I was only one step ahead of them. And when I first started, we only had 2-3 callers. And by 75, we had about 8-9 callers.
Mm-hmm.
And come the 80s, we had 25 callers.
Nice.
So it was almost a full-time job just training callers. So, and that's my passion now, Charlie. I love training callers and running caller schools. And now I'm doing a couple in the US and one in Germany this year.
I didn't want to say something incorrect. I saw you're on a flyer I just saw. Where are you calling in the States this year?
Yeah, with Ken Ritucci's Northeast Caller School.
I thought that was where it was. Have you been over there yet to his Northeast Caller School?
Yes, I have. I was there in 2018, just prior to COVID.
Okay.
And then Ken invited me back last year, but we couldn't go because COVID was still around.
Yeah.
So we're going this year. And I've just got an invite also to go to Germany to run a caller school there too with Martin Cromer. Yeah. So that's my passion. I love doing that, Charlie. And that's where I'm at the moment.
I try and do one big school a year. And I'm kind of in a toss up, and I think this is Ken's 20th year.
It is.
And I'm pretty close with Ken when it comes as far as that. Although we don't live close together, we talk on occasion. And I went to the Northeast Caller School last year, and or the year before last, and phenomenal. Love the area, love everything about it. Then it had Tony Oxendine and Ted Lazat were there, and a gentleman, Don Mosier from Canada, was there that year. And what a great time and a great setup. And so I've really been considering going back this year. I've got to figure out if I want to spend the money to go up there, because it is costly. But I got to fly in every. Of course, you're coming from Australia, so I'm not going to talk about the cost. Maybe I get to see you there. That'd be fantastic.
He puts on a good show, doesn't he, Ken? Charlie?
Yes, he does.
He runs a great school.
It's a phenomenal school. Love that setup. Just the old school hotel that you're in and everything that he put us up in. And the facilities he has there for the dances every night and the little after parties. It's one of the finest schools I've been to for sure. And that you're going to be there this year, I might have to head up that direction. Love the area.
You will.
Okay.
And if you're not there, I'll come and get you, Charlie.
Okay. You fly into Atlanta and we'll catch a connector out of Atlanta up to New England.
Okay. Done.
Up to Northeast. So now with your call, you're in Australia, but you've been doing it for over 50 years now. Where all have you traveled venue wise? Anything stand out to you, memorable places?
What, hall wise, you mean?
Yeah, sure. Anything like that, or crowds, or just something that stands out to you?
I'll tell you what, Charlie, probably not really. I mean, I've obviously called in hundreds of different halls. But I do just love a hall that just feels good and the sound is good. And it sort of gives you that extra spark to sort of do anything and everything, But when the sound's a little bit iffy or it's like a big gymnasium or something like that, doesn't have much of a feel, you've really got to work hard to get that feeling there, But as long as the hall's nice and the floor's good, all those sorts of things, it all helps to make a great weekend. Now,
you have a record label yourself, am I correct?
I do.
What's your record label? Tell me about that.
It's Aussie Tempos.
Okay.
and the subsidiary label was Down Under Records.
Okay.
And it was back in 1997 when we launched our label, and the who was the guy? Bill Hyman was the record distributor back in those days. Supreme Audio, before Palomino took over the business, and he was distributing our records for us. And in those days, Charlie, we had a tape service, and at the very top, he used to have the top 10 sellers of that particular month. Mm-hmm. When we released our first record, we were so pleased that we came in at number one with our very first song. So that really sparked us up and said, okay, let's go for it. So off we went and started to release tunes.
Very nice. What's some, I've talked to a few record producers and label owners, and it's hard to say it, but do you have any particular ones that you just like more than the others? Some of your favorite calls that you've done, or you've done or other people have done?
Yeah, I tend not to do much of my own, actually, and I don't know why. But if I've got a favorite song, if somebody said, come and give us a guest call, it would probably be something like the old Wagon Wheel Mississippi. I just love that song. Let's Dance, which is on Rhythm Record.
Okay.
Let's Dance. They actually changed the lyrics there. It's the actual song is Sex Bomb.
Okay.
And I just love that song. It's good. It's a good up tempo, yee-haw type song, and gets people moving. So that's probably one that I would just pull out straight away if I hadn't planned to do anything.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yes, so we've been lucky with our Aussie tempos. We've released quite a few good songs, and I'm fortunate enough to have my brother-in-law that does all the music for us. He's got his own band, an orchestra. He's a musician.
Oh, wow.
Been at the game for 50 odd years too. So I just come on the end of his list, unfortunately, for to-do list, because I'm family.
I got you.
So I've just got to wait for him to be ready, and I've got a couple of songs that I want to release now. But do you think I could get him nailed down to give me a basic track? No, but I'm working on it.
Okay, well that's good. That's good to know. I'll keep an eye out for that. So what? And I haven't really talked to anybody about this. Why did you decide, or what made you decide to try and start doing your own records?
It's a good question actually, because there were tunes that obviously I heard on the radio or on the records, on the vinyls that I had in stock here, and I just felt I just needed to do those songs.
Sure. Okay.
But the only thing that was holding me back was, how do I go about, producing, supplying the music, and having someone to sell the records for us. Mm-hmm. And when I found out about the record distributors in the US, I thought, well, there's a start. And then I approached my brother-in-law. I said, yeah, I could do that. I thought, great. So off we went. Okay. And one of our best sellers ever, and believe it or not, we sold nearly 10,000 copies, Charlie, was Light the Candles Around the World.
That's yours?
Yep.
That is awesome. That is fantastic.
Yep.
That gets a lot of plays over here. It still does.
I found the actual original song on a CD, and it was a Christmas CD. Val Doonigan was his name, and it was done in a waltz time. And so I took the music off to our music bloke, and I said, I want to record this. What can you do with this? He said, Steve, this is done in a waltz time. He says, there's some things that you don't do with music, and you don't want to change the beat. And we persisted, and my wife obviously said, come on, brother, just give it a go and see what you come up with. And he came up with that eventually. And to think now that we're selling anything between 50 and 100 records. We sold 10,000 back in those days. It was unbelievable. Yeah. So it was a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, with everything, change is always good and it's always bad sometimes. I started out at the back end of records. When I first started, somebody gave me a handful of records, and then I bought a couple from a gentleman who's passed away over here now. And but that was right in the window when it started going digital. And of course, now everything I don't see records anywhere except you'll see like one person walk into a national convention and still have records, but everybody else is laptops. The upside is you can carry 1,000 songs in your hand. You couldn't do that with records. But I think it's taken something away. There's a lot of the sharing that goes on, which is not right. That hurts your sales.
Exactly.
And and I think there's so much out there now that kind of cuts down on some of it. There's so many good record labels, and so many places you can get music from. So,
and I believe too, Charlie. Today's music is probably the best we've ever had.
Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, it's just wonderful and good quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll always be. Some songs are good for us, some are not. But we're all different. We've all got different styles. So it's just hard to make anything out of selling records. In fact, you don't make money out of selling records anymore.
You don't.
So I take my hat off to the record labels that are pushing songs out.
Sure.
Otherwise, where would we go with new music?
I know, and I put it out on Facebook a while back. I try, telling people, and for a while I was posting what I was buying. I'd like every month I try and go and buy 3 songs, whether it be singing or patter or whatever, from whatever label, whatever moves me. I've got about 5 main labels that I really like, but I'll get on Music for Callers or one of those sites, and I'll just hit new releases, and I'm like, all right, there's one. And so I try and buy about 3 a month. And I thought if 100 callers would buy 3 a month, that would start pushing some of these records, but I don't know. Dancers and callers can be cheap sometimes, so it's a hard sell.
And I try and do that myself, Charlie. I'm buying new music all the time, and do I need new music? Probably not. I'm only calling once a week now. I've stopped most of my traveling, but I've got the bug, so I've got to have a new music to keep my interest going too.
I'll hear that somebody will put one out that I just love, and I'll go grab it, and 3 months later I'll realize I've yet to play it at a dance, because I've got so much other stuff. I've got stuff right now that I've yet to do, and I love the music. It's just I call regularly twice a month, but I have about 2 to 3 other dances, so about 5 times a month I'm calling an actual dance. And I've got way more music than I could ever play in those 5 dances. So,
what would be your favorite singer if somebody said, "Give us a guest call," and you just picked out one quickly?
Well, if it was just something, one of my favorites right now is it's "Simple Man." It's a Leonard Skinner song. Love it.
Yep.
And Scott Bennett did it. Off of I forget, he's got 3 labels: Acme, Crest, and Peak.
Crest.
I forget which one it's on.
Yep.
And love that one. And now for an old school, I don't know what record label it is, but it's Jambalaya. That's really the first singing call I ever did. Love that song. I can do it in my sleep. And it got to the point where my wife said, "You've got to put that thing away for about a year. Stop doing Jambalaya." So yeah, I love to go that direction. But yeah, probably Simple Man. And because I love that. On that point, what if it's not square dance music, what genre do you like to listen to when you're just out there, doing whatever?
Well, yeah, you know what? My parents played the 60s music, even when I was a kid, it's just, and really, if I had a choice, it's the 60s to the 80s that I enjoy, and any type, whether it be sort of, the Beatles or a little bit further up. I just love the 60s to the 80s music. I can listen to that all day long.
Very nice. Okay.
Yep. I like a bit of country as well. You know, the Don Williams and the Josh Turner and all those
Sure.
sorts of guys, and good stuff. Yep.
Yeah, that is good. So I have to ask, being Australia, AC/DC fan?
No way, mate. You got to be joking.
I had to ask. I had to ask. They're Australian, so I did the same thing with Philip Cam in Germany. You know, I said, "Are you a Scorpions fan?" Because that's probably, along with Metallica, my favorite group, Scorpions. And he's like, "Nope, not a Scorpions fan." So,
That is funny.
but I had to ask that. All right. Let's see what else. So you got the school. How often do you get over to the States? I mean, I know you've got a couple times this year. Do you come to conventions or anything?
No, I don't, Charlie. Is mainly because of the cost.
Sure.
You know, it's very expensive to get across the US. I actually went over in '85. I did a tour with Brian Hodgkiss from Sydney,
Okay.
and we toured for 3 weeks throughout the US, and that was a great experience as well. We had lots of bookings. We had 26 flights, Charlie, in 21 days. So we would do a dance, jump on the plane, go to the next, and sometimes we had to separate because we had 2 shows on the same day or weekend, and then we'd meet up at the next place. But it was one heck of an experience, and totally worn out when I got home. But man, I gained a lot of experience in '85.
Wow. I mean,
and back in 2001, we went over to on the eastern side of Australia because I got invited to be part of a 7-day square dance program at the Square Dance Centre in Queensland. And Nev and Bev McLaughlin were running this, and they wanted me to go over there and work 7 days at the centre. So I thought the only way I could do that, I had something like 7 clubs going in Perth at that time. And we had a couple of callers to kind of take over. And in the end, we invited Jet Roberts, because we knew Jet, obviously. He'd been over several times, whether he would consider coming to Australia to live and take over our clubs in Perth. So he said, no way, can't do that. 2 weeks later, he rang back and said, I'm coming. So I thought, great. So we sponsored him into Australia, and it gave us the opportunity to go over to the eastern side, work over there. And during that time, we had the opportunity of going around the world for 5.5 months. And again, it was a calling trip, and started off in New Zealand, and then we went over to the States. And Bill Hyman, the actual distributor of the music, put out an email ages ago and was asking for a volunteer driver to drive his big bus with all his equipment and speakers and records and all that sort of stuff, take it from the eastern side over to Anaheim and set up a booth. And I said to my wife, I said, why don't we put our name in and just see what happens? You know, we could get over to the US and then drive across. And damn me, it all happened, Charlie. Before we knew it, we got an email back that said, you've got it. All you've got to do is take our van, drive it across America to the other side with all our gear, take as long as you like, and drive it all back after the convention. It was the 50th, I think it was, the 50th National Anaheim. So that was one heck of an experience, especially for us coming from Australia, driving on the wrong side of the road, driving this huge damn truck with all his valuables in it. And he says, all you've got to do is just pay for your own accommodation. All the petrol's covered. So that's what we did. He gave us a credit card. We filled it up with petrol, and off we went. And
Nice.
again, what an
That is a
experience
good
that was.
story. Gosh, that's a good
And
story.
then we left that when we took it all the way back. Then we flew up to Canada, and we did the same. Went right from the East Coast right through to Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
We went to England, over to Europe, Germany, land up in Sweden, Dubai, and then home again. It was just magical. Yeah.
So you've seen a good portion of the U.S., and I don't think I've brought
Yep.
this up before. What do you like best in the United States? Is there a state or anything that stands out to you as you really like that, or anything, or somebody you don't like?
No, I enjoyed it all. I must admit the US dancers are more vocal than the Australians.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, they'll do more yahooing and
Mm-hmm.
have all these sound effects for different movements that you do over there.
I understand what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, so I certainly brought some of those back, I tell you.
Very nice.
But yeah, I just loved it, and over particularly in Europe. I mean, they dance fast over there, and talk about no breaks. It was just 4 hours of continuous dancing.
I've heard that. I've heard that about Japan and some parts of Germany, that it's just continual. There's very little break.
Yeah.
There's clubs over here. Go ahead.
Yeah, they have all different levels too in the one dance night, if you like. That do basic, mainstream, plus, then back to basic, mainstream, plus, all the way through, and everybody's up almost.
Yep.
Doing all those moves and doing those levels. And for the caller, at first, it's kind of shocked me at first, but by not having any breaks, you didn't have to restart again, and you were on a roller coaster and just going up and up and up. I loved it.
That's good. That's
Absolutely loved it.
It is when you have that. And we've got a few clubs around here like that. There's a club in Atlanta, and I bring them up quite often. They're probably as good a dancers as I've seen, Hot Atlanta, and they dance advanced in C also, but they are continual. They go the entire time. Other clubs, you go in there, you'll call 2 tips, and then they take 30 minutes for dinner. And although that's fine with me, it's less work for me, but it kind of breaks, like you're saying, you get a rhythm going. When you start building that crowd up a little bit, and you want to bring them up here and take them back, and it's like, hey, let's shut it down for about 30 minutes and that's fine. It's always good food, but yeah, I would like to experience Europe, calling wise, and some point I might get to. Who knows?
Yeah, you will. Yep.
To see that. Oh. So you've been around the world. Any places other than the United States, like I say, with that, any funny stories about any of the New Zealand's or anything like that?
Well, there are a couple, obviously.
Okay.
There was, every time I went away on a weekend, my 2 boys used to jump in bed with mum while I was away. And of course, she'd have some sleepless nights sometimes. So when I found this out, I got home. I said, "Okay, boys, next time I go away, don't go sleeping with mum. Stay in your own bedrooms. You're growing up. You'll be fine." So anyway, I will go off and do this particular weekend and come back. And as I'm coming through the airport gates, my 2 boys were there waiting for me. My youngest boy came running up, and you can imagine an airport full of people. And he said, Dad, no one slept with mum while you were away. And really?
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
I didn't know whether to laugh or just try and hide, but
oh, that's good. Gosh.
Yes.
Oh. And you said you've got 12 grandkids?
We have, yes. Wow. So that's what I do in my spare time. We've got a huge family, and we've got 3 kids each, along with that, all the grandkids. So we've got busy time.
Any dancers in there?
No.
No dancers or callers in that group?
No, you know what they did in their younger days when they were about 6 or 7, but unfortunately you wouldn't see them in a square dance hall nowadays.
I understand.
So sad.
I got you. Now,
but they back me, you know, and they support me with all the things that I do. I recently was awarded the Order of Australia Medal, and what that is, it's a government that recognises people that contribute time and effort for the community within the country. And I was awarded that. I was just overwhelmed, and I had my family come along, and they came to the ceremony where I was awarded the medal of Australia, and all different things that I've achieved in my time. My family's been there, so you know, awesome. They're not anti-square dancing, but they just won't be seen on a dance floor. That's all.
Yeah. I just have the one son, and he's married, so I've got one grandson now, and of course a daughter-in-law, and never expressed any desire to square dance. And of course, I really never pushed it on him. My wife and I took lessons when he was 3. And but yeah, he never showed anything into it. And I don't know. He did ask me to bring all my stuff over the night before last over the weekend because they wanted to do karaoke, but it was not square dance related. So I took my speaker and all my microphones, and I was like, "Here, have at it. It's Bluetooth. You can do your karaoke." So
good on you.
Maybe there's a singer in there somewhere. Who knows?
That's right.
How would you describe Perth? Is it suburban? Is it near water? What is Perth set up?
Yeah, Perth is on the west coast.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 20 minutes from the ocean.
Okay.
We've got probably close to 2 million in Western Australia.
Okay.
And Western Australia is huge. It's the biggest state in Australia. There's about 25 million in the whole of Australia. And we've probably got probably about a quarter of Australia is Western Australia. It's huge. To go from the south up to north is probably around about 5,000 k's.
Okay.
Kilometers, sorry. So you're probably looking at, I don't know, what's that? Nearly 4,000 miles, I guess.
Okay.
And to get out of Western Australia, it'd probably take you 2 days going across to get to the other states. So it's a huge state.
Okay. And the reason I asked stuff, when you're not square dancing, what do you like to do? Are you a beach person? Or are you a mountain person? Because that's why I ask. I don't know anything about that part of Australia. What do you consider yourself? What do you like to do when you're not square dancing?
I love the sun.
Okay.
Luckily, I love the sun. I'll just lay on the beach for hours, not hours and hours, but I just love being in the sun.
Very nice.
And we have plenty of it here. We've got 30 Celsius today because we're in the middle of summer.
Right.
And it's just perfect weather. But when I'm not square dancing, Charlie, I love doing renovation work.
Okay.
And I've been doing it for years and years. I'm certainly not a professional at any type of renovations. I just love pushing down walls and building a new wall or taking out a window and when we moved down south of Perth, we bought this house, as you can see behind me. It's an unusual looking house, but there's lots of things that needed to be done. So, and I've been doing that, and I've built another bedroom, built another bathroom. I just love doing it. We've got a bit of a property as well, so I'm out there with the chainsaw and things like that.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Yep. Okay.
I'm an expert with the chainsaw.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's good stuff. Now, I know when you were talking about the dancing, and it's a little different there with the handholds and all that. Do y'all dance advanced and C? How high a level do you dance and call to?
Yep, I call up to A2.
Okay.
Including A2, but most of our level throughout Australia is mainstream.
Is that right?
Which is very, very good.
Makes sense.
We don't have that problem that the US have got, where they go into plus as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've still got dancers here that want to go into plus, but we strongly suggest, really get a hand on your mainstream before you move into plus.
Okay.
Most times that happens. They'll dance a couple of years doing mainstream before they start venturing into the plus, and then the same with the plus. Do plus for a couple of years before you venture into the A level. And we've managed to keep that kind of control, really, Charlie, throughout Australia.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, that's all right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I've noticed, and I've only taught 2 classes now, from beginning to end, and but a lot of the callers that I talk to, that's one of the issues I think that a lot of people are dealing with over here is the minute you get out of mainstream, it's like, hey, let's start plus classes for those people, and if you have a younger dancer, it's absolutely something you can look into. The older dancers, which are typically the people we get, just to push them straight into plus is a rough go. You need to dance it for a couple of years of mainstream. And that falls on the caller too. You got to be a creative caller. If you're calling the same mainstream 10 or 12 calls, you're going to lose people on that. So I think it's good that y'all drag them, not drag them, but y'all keep them in the mainstream. And as long as it's creative, I've danced to some callers on the national level that are just amazing at the SSD level. You have no idea you're dancing an SSD or a mainstream with the positions they put you in. It's phenomenal.
That's right.
So I think it's good that y'all keep them in that.
Charlie, what's the day? Monday. 2 days ago, we ran a show in Perth, and it was an open dance, and it was organised by our dance association. And because it was an open dance, that meant that it could be anybody that could come along, even SSD dancers.
Mm-hmm.
So what we decided to do was to make SSD the predominant level for that afternoon without advertising it. So we had the majority of people up on the floor all the time. We had a couple of plus brackets, had a few rounds as well. But I don't think anybody knew that we weren't doing a spin the top or a spin chain through.
Yep.
And all of our callers that were there, we had 9 callers, and they all did a great job. And obviously, they've done a good job in preparing themselves to do interesting SSD without making it difficult.
Sure.
And the majority of people we had there were seasoned mainstream dancers and plus dancers, obviously. So if you're good at it, SSD is the way to go.
That's exactly. If you can be, if you're creative and you're good at it and you can work and know where you are at all times, you can make SSD just as challenging and as enjoyable as plus or wherever level you want to go to.
Exactly. Totally agree with you, Charlie. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when do y'all normally have y'all's conventions over there? Do y'all have, I don't know the equivalent of state conventions. How do y'all do y'all's dances over there?
Yeah, we have a national convention every year, okay, and we have it in a different state every year, and it's held between April and June every year.
Okay, gotcha.
This year we've got the Darwin National, which is in the Northern Territory. We don't have a club up there, but it's an opportunity for dancers to make a holiday out of it, sure, and attend a national convention as well.
Okay.
The following year is Queensland, where we're actually holding a callers conference as well. Okay. A 3-day caller conference prior to the national convention. That's awesome. So hopefully that will be successful as well. We're getting Joe Cromer from Germany to come over.
Okay.
They're with myself, and we've got a voice coach as well. Nice. She's actually my stepdaughter, the voice coach.
Okay.
She works in Sydney and works in drama, dramatic arts. Yeah, so there'll be the 3 of us. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Should be good.
now, and I apologize for this, because I didn't ask you, and some people have it right off the top of their head. You are a site and module caller and memory and everything else. Do you have a favorite get out?
Got hundreds, Charlie.
Yeah, and I think but like I told you before, this is a caller school for me, and I'm looking for other stuff. So if you got a couple, I'll certainly write them down.
Good, and I think we better have another podcast just to do get outs and get ins.
Absolutely, we'll do another one. That is for sure.
Yeah, what I focus on and teach callers is that know your formation.
Mm-hmm.
Corner box to start off with. So most callers would just call head square through 4.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing that, we've already got that embedded in our brain. So do a little module exactly the same as a get in. So it might be head square through 3 hands,
mm-hmm.
cloverleaf, zoom, pass through, and then you're in your corner box.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So if you have little modules like this as get-ins and get-outs, you've almost got a hoedown structured without doing any site calling at all.
Mm-hmm.
So head square through 3, cloverleaf, zoom, pass through, then you get out from a corner box. I'll give you one. Star through, pass through, bend the line. Centers, star through, California 12. You're obviously using shorthand there, Charlie.
Yeah, I got you.
And centers square through 5.
Nice. Okay.
While the others square through 3 around the outside. Alaman left. Sounds complicated, Charlie, but it's not. It really isn't.
No,
You've got the center 4 people doing their little things, square through 5.
Mm-hmm.
The others are scattered around the outside, ready to do a square through 3 around the outside.
Wow.
And if you emphasize that, they'll get it.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Another little get out from a corner box would be star through, pass through, tag the line, cloverleaf, look for your partner, grand right and left.
Nice. Okay.
It's a nice little way of getting into a grand right and left. You've got to pre-cue that, obviously, so don't let them quite finish the cloverleaf. Mm-hmm. And say, look for your partner, grand right and left, and they'll just fall straight into it.
Nice.
And I do the same with partner lines too, Charlie, is, heads lead right, circle to a line. We all know mm-hmm. that.
Yes, sir.
Get to a partner line. But if you had something different to get to a partner line, you could say something like heads circle 4 3/4 in the middle.
Okay.
Everybody veer left, extend, bend the line. You're in a partner line. Nothing hard, it's just slightly different. Gets dancers thinking, and it makes them concentrate on, okay, this is going to be something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And off you go. A get out from a partner line. So you've got, one from corner box, 2 from corner box. Mm-hmm. Partner line would be one that I use quite often with a few variations, is right, left through, half sachet, once and a half. Can be a little bit difficult, so I say make sure the girls are behind the boys.
Right.
Double pass through and cloverleaf. So the boys are in the middle, girls are behind them. Boys make a right hand star. Nice. Turn it 1 full turn, Alaman left. And a nice big clap, clap, clap.
Very nice. We're gonna there'll be a couple of late nights in New England if I get up there for some of this stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, anytime if you want, we could do a Zoom session and we just you and I just go through loads of things.
Absolutely. That sounds great, Steve. That is awesome, man. Well, Steve, I don't know what else we haven't covered. I'd love to go over get in and get outs and just a little bit that we've talked about your choreography. That's really what I was looking for when I got into this, the stories and the work. as a caller coach, do you have any advice for callers that are just starting out or callers that have got 10, 12 years in?
Yeah, I do, Charlie. One I've always had a real thing about is have a plan. No matter whether you're doing one call or whether you're doing a full tip or even doing a whole night, have a plan and write it down.
Gotcha.
And I believe that that's the way you give yourself a bit of confidence rather than just going cold and going straight onto the stage. Okay, what am I going to do? So have a plan. I always tell the newer callers, if you can't see it, don't call it. And what that means is, if you don't know where the dancers are going to end up after you make a call, then don't call it. Research it first, study it, so you know exactly where the dancers are after you make that command. So it might be, heads past the ocean, extend, swing through, do a hinge. You've got to know that the boys will be facing out and the girls are facing in an ocean wave. And that stops all the stop and start. It also, again, gives you confidence in having control of the dancers. So if you can't see it in your mind, don't call it.
Gotcha. Very nice.
Study it first.
Okay.
And the way to get good at anything is to do it a lot. So do a lot of calling, and you will get good at it. I've just found that over the years. When you're doing 7, 8 clubs a week, or with different levels, different dancers, you get good at it. You have to get good at it. You're using material and you're finding new material because sometimes you've got dancers coming 2, 3 times a week to your club, so you can't be using the same stuff.
Yeah.
So get good at that. Dedicate 1 hour per day to study.
Yep.
Whether you've been calling for 2 weeks or whether you've been calling for 50 years, I don't care. Study for 1 hour a day. That doesn't take much.
Yeah, you've got to do something every day, regardless of what it is you do in life, but especially something like this, because like you said, you can't run up there and do the same. You pulled it off when you were younger, but you can't go up there and do the same 5 songs,
No,
especially if you have Lord knows if you have a club, you can't do that. Some of these guys that I talk to that are just traveling callers, they can put together a set list of 7 or 8 songs with 7 or 8 patterns and do that because they're in Georgia tonight and they'll probably be in South Carolina tomorrow. But that's that is a small handful of callers that do that. But they're good enough that they don't do that. But you could get away. But when you're doing locally, you can't run it up there. I can't do jambalaya anymore. People are like, all right, we're done with that. Give me something else. And so I'm gonna have to look at the Aussie tempo tonight when we get done with this. I got to look and see what you got over there and grab up some of those. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's like even with what do you wear? You're doing all these different shows all over the country, and people will say, you had that same shirt on last year. So it's the same with singing calls. Oh, you did that last year. So you've got to keep coming up with new stuff. You've got your old faithfuls, obviously, and you've got a certain amount of choreography that you like to sort of use every time because you get a good reaction no matter how you present it.
Sure.
One thing that I always use on weekends is I love Tag the Line, by the way.
Okay.
Tag the Line is a great call for me because there's so much variety you can use with Tag the Line. You've got your half tag, your quarter and 3/4 tags. You can face right, you can face left, you can face in, you can face out, all those things just with one call. And also make sure that you're got east-west facing lines, not north-south, but east-west. Pass through, tag the line and face me. So everybody turns to face the caller on stage.
Okay.
That's where you do an Alaman left, believe it or not.
Wow.
So corner box, excuse me. Write it down, Charlie.
Yeah.
Corner box, star through, pass through, tag the line, face me. And the reason why I say face me, I used to say face the caller, but sometimes people interpret that as face the corner.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it. So from now on, I say face me.
Okay.
Or face the best looking caller on the stage, or something silly.
Okay.
And you'll find that people do a U-turn back and face the other way.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And then you do an man left from there.
That's awesome.
So yes, tag the line is a great call.
Okay, and I do ask people some of their favorite calls, and I've never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense. That's fantastic. That's good stuff. Well, Steve, we've been going about an hour, and like I said, I like to keep it around that. People get tired of looking at me. Now it's what is it? 8? What time is it there? 8 a.m.
Yeah, it's just 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock
in the morning.
Okay, 10 in the morning is 9:07 p.m. here at night.
Tuesday morning. And also, Charlie, if you need to know what the lottery numbers are, I can give it to you. There is one more thing I'd like to say, Charlie.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was involved with a subcommittee from CALLERLAB to look at revamping the starter kit manual. It took us over a couple of years, and we had Daryl Clendenin, Kip Garvey, myself, Mike Sikorsky, and Dottie Welsh, and can't think of the other one. Anyway, we worked on it for a couple of years. So I would highly recommend that every caller should have a copy of this starter kit. It's free of charge, as far as I know. And it gives you all the information you need to start calling. It's also a great manual to have for train the trainer as well. So if you've got a caller that wants to start, use this manual to get you on the path of progression through their calling career. It's wonderful. Not just
I'm glad you said that.
In it, but it's a wonderful manual to have.
I'm glad you said that. We were talking earlier, and we had brought up that you've said there's a few young callers in your area. And that's something we got to have. Most people talk about, hey, we got to have more dancers. And yes, dance, and I get it. I wasn't calling then. Numbers are way down, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. But, as bad as we need dancers, we need callers. I mean, I'm considered one of the young guys, and I'm 56. I still walk into a square dance, and I'm the youngest one in the room sometimes. But we need those 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds that are calling, or just, hey, encourage somebody to do it. So that caller's starter kits is fantastic. I didn't know that you had a part of that, and I'm glad to hear that.
And there's, unfortunately, Charlie, there's not a lot of attraction for young dancers to take up calling. The numbers are not there. It's hard to start a club nowadays. All I wanted to do was start a club when I started calling. I wanted to have a club. I wanted to have 2 or 3 clubs, and they were easy to sort of generate and form. But nowadays, it's damn hard work to get people to come square dancing. Yeah,
it's hard. If you don't have the facilities too, it's not cheap. The places around here, just to get something on a Friday night is $200. And am I just I won't get that many people to come dance if it's not a club. So it's tough.
Oh, that's right.
It's tough.
Yeah. So it's hard work. I think we've just got to keep at it and just keep going.
Absolutely.
We've got to do something. Yeah.
Steve, it was my pleasure, man. I certainly look forward to it. Like I say, I am planning on hitting a couple caller schools this year, and I've really been considering Ken's since this is 20th, and I really had a good time the last time I was up there. I know you're going to be there now. I know Tony and Ted are coming back, and phenomenal guys. Love those two.
I think Bill Harrison is coming too.
Bill Harrison. Another awesome dude. He's one of the guys way back when I first started. He was bouncing around down here. So, man, I hope to meet you there at least.
Okay, great.
Because I've joked, I've always wanted to go to Australia, but my son was in the Air Force several years ago now, and he was in Japan, northern Japan, and we flew to Japan, and that might have been the longest flight. Well, it was the longest flight of my life, and it felt like the longest 14 hours of my life. And then they were like, you know what, Australia's further than this, and I thought, well, good Lord, I don't think I'll ever go to Australia. So who knows?
Well, we're only 30 hours away from the US.
Well, who knows? Who knows? I don't want to say I'll never do it, but maybe someday I'll get down there. Who knows? So, but I will probably see you here before you'll see me there. So, sir, I look forward to seeing you in New England for sure. And I look forward to doing one of these probably in about another month or two. I'd like to do this and just get more into the choreography now that we know who you are.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and you're doing a great job here, Charlie, too.
Mr. Turner, it's been my pleasure. I look forward to meeting you, and I'm going to get on there. I'm going to look at some of your Aussie tunes and Aussie tempo tunes and add some new stuff to Simple Man and Jambalaya. So
hope you like it.
Steve, it's been a pleasure, brother. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
No worries, mate. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Walking square through, all the way, and then you'll swing through again. Boy running a Ferris wheel, and now the center square through to 3. Swinging promenade, out in old Troubadour. When I'm gone, side space, grand square, still feel 25. Most of the time, I still raise a little Cain when the boys left Alabama and we talks and pretty women. Lord, I'm still right there with them, singing above the crowd and the noise. Four ladies chain over and back, out in old Troubadour. When I'm gone. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Oxendine.
Charlie Petrie, y'all.
Thank y'all for letting me do that. I appreciate that.